All right, guys, we're here at Union Fitness at the Iron City Open in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We are here. I'm Grayson Gallo, and this is Josh Henderson, and we are here with this man in the middle. This is the mind behind Callous Hands Powerlifting, Lennox Green. Lennox, thanks for coming on today.
Thanks for having me, man.
Excited. Gray, I know you get some coaching from Loans, and I've learned about Loans from you and also the EliteFTS program that you put on their site. Gray and I both run the Conjugate Method, and we've learned a lot from Loans that we've implemented into our own, from traditional conjugate and stuff like that. We've learned a lot from him, just from what he's put out. Loans, how did you get into powerlifting?
So how did I get into powerlifting? I started lifting weights in high school. I was just kind of like an angry kid, listening to Black Flag, just kind of killing myself, not knowing what the hell's going on. Just like started doing like bodybuilding programs and stuff like that. I was a small, skinny kid, and I didn't have, any kind of real waist or anything like that. So I was like, I'm not really ever going to be great in bodybuilding. Clearly I'm not Kai Green here. Missing a few things for that. But so I kind of, honestly, like I would say, like the first exposure I had to powerlifting was EliteFTS. I just kind of started Googling and kind of similar stuff popped up, and that's, probably that was 2005 or 2006. And so, I was kind of doing my own thing in a commercial gym in Knoxville, Tennessee. I'm from Tennessee. I didn't have, really the equipment or the training partners or anything like that, and kind of met some people that were kind of interested in powerlifting and strength training and whatnot. But I realized that, I was kind of like the WPO was going on back then, and, I realized I didn't have what I needed. So I went on powerliftingwatch.com. I'm sure you guys have heard of that website. Just did like the kind of, I'm sure they still have it, you can kind of type in your state or whatever and get powerlifting gyms in your area. So I found a gym called Cell Block Gym. That's Manchester, Tennessee, which was about 3 hours from me. And that's where I met basically who would become my mentor, Brent Tracy. Brent was a top 198 in the multiply division for over 5 years. He's been powerlifting for 40 years now. He trained at Westside in the mid-90s. Curtis, get out of here. In the mid-90s. And that's, that's basically who kind of brought me up in powerlifting and kind of, showed me the ropes. And, I attribute most of what I know to him, and what I do is kind of, is transformed from that, and I kind of apply it to raw lifting as I see it best fit.
Yeah, you definitely do a really good job of applying the conjugate to raw lifting, because I'm a raw lifter, Josh is a raw lifter.
Right.
Some of the stuff that you do is a little bit different. I will say that. I know you like doing speed stuff on snacks every day, at least for deadlifts, which you program for me.
Right.
So when you went to Cell Block, is that when you got introduced to conjugate training as far as like actually training that method?
Yeah, so, again, like Brent, it wasn't, he didn't train, he trained at Westside, but he didn't train the traditional Westside split. So I kind of just jumped in with how they were doing it. But I was definitely introduced to conjugate principles, bands, chains, boards, just variation, just general concepts like that. That's, where I got my introduction. Does that answer it?
Yeah.
I kind of just get to talk and forget the question.
So powerlifting, I think we're kind of seeing it, like as we see today, all these people come out for this meet. We're seeing it in a pretty exciting time. So many people are getting into it again, especially raw lifting.
Yeah.
With all these new people coming into the sport, trying it out, what's your advice to them?
Yeah,
Some
so
of the biggest pieces of advice.
yeah, that's a hard one. That's you're kind of touching on a lot of stuff there.
Yeah.
We are in an exciting type of powerlifting. It's growing so it's growing in popularity. I've kind of talked to Casey and heard some stuff from Dave Tate about this. It's not actually growing in numbers, it's growing in popularity, right? So we're seeing, it's definitely like becoming more mainstream, more accepted. Like, a powerlifting meet 10 years ago, you saw 3 women. And now, like, how many hot chicks in here do you see that are just like smashing the bitch? You know, it's just more accepted. You know,
Women's powerlifting.
and it's great. You know, it's awesome. You know, like some people have problems with that, but I think it's great. You know, but you know, the new people coming into powerlifting. So like I said, this is gonna be really hard for me to be brief on. You know, if you were to come into powerlifting right now, today, how would you come into it? Probably Instagram, right? And who do you see? You see the people that are most popular. So, you know, probably the biggest, you know, most valuable piece of advice I give a new lifter would be to be critical of, you know, the information out there, because the majority of it is just, it's, you know, a sales pitch. It's a reach for followers and popularity, because that equates to, you know, monetary compensation. Be critical of what you see. Be careful who you listen to. You know, just definitely don't jump into it and take anyone's word for what they say it is. Right?
It's funny that you mentioned the monetary compensation thing. That was one of the things that sparked us to do this. Was, you know, when I got into powerlifting, I haven't been in this sport very long, right? 5 or 6 years. But my first exposure to it, same as yourself, was around EliteFTS and things like that.
It's a lot of our generation that we're in right now.
Yeah,
that's how they got into it.
And I know Dave, Tate, and Jim Wendler both would preach. You know, they did thousands of Q&A posts, and thousands of hours of seminars for free.
Yeah.
Right? And that's why we wanted to do this. We're just going to put this on YouTube for free.
There you go.
We want to interview high-level guys, high-level coaches like yourself for free to put good information out there. I know you do that a lot through social media, and I know social media is kind of like, it could be used for good or bad.
Sure.
Yeah. As far as a tool of getting information out there. But I know you put a lot of stuff out there for free. Obviously, I follow all your shit. Josh, I saw your shit.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. The other thing, I lost my train of thought there, what I was going to go for. But yeah, I mean, we're both, like I said, we've learned a lot just from your template you put on EliteFTS.
Yeah.
You know, that was awesome. You're dealing with tendonitis, right?
Oh, God.
So I think one thing with powerlifting, this is my opinion, and I want to get your idea on it. I was talking to Grant. I think when people get a strain, or you know, they're getting some shoulder pain or some back pain, they just completely go rogue and rest it, right? Instead of attacking their weaknesses. You know, like I've heard Matt Wenning, Dave, you know, people like yourself talk about, you know, just because you're having back pain doesn't mean it's your back. It can be your knees, it can be your hips.
Yeah.
So I think another big thing for newer people or people that have never been injured before is to attack those weaknesses where you're feeling, you know, like I told Gray, like, you know, I was having delt pain when I was benching. He's like, well, your front delt's probably need to get stronger. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how you feel about that, because I saw you posted some of the rehab stuff you were doing with your hand.
Yeah.
And you're able to bench now a little bit, dumbbell bench. So I don't know how you feel about that, recovery and rehab, but, you know, from the people I've seen that have completely went rogue, they're just getting weaker, and when they come back, they didn't really even...
The problem is just...
Yeah, it's just as bad, and they're 10 times weaker.
Yeah, I mean, you can't, you know, I agree with that and then disagree with it somewhat. You can't just rest and expect it to get better, you know, and it's just not how it's going to work. Especially if you go back into the same kind of training, same kind of movement patterns, it's just going to lead you to the same place, you know. I do think you should be aggressive in rehab. I do think if you get injured, you should try and rehab it as soon as possible, you know, even if you have surgery, just as reasonably as possible. Get blood in there and whatnot. But yeah, I agree with just probably don't need to just take off. You know, you need to be able to work around it. You know, there's something to be said for, you know, my arms don't recover well. They never have. I've never had big arms. I've never had strong arms. And it just, like my tendonitis has kind of been like an ongoing problem for like 5, 6, 7 years, you know, and it's just a bitch. It's basically like something that I just like, it kind of sucked, but I could deal with it, and I never really took care of it, and it got so bad to the point where I'm just like, fuck, you know, what do I do? So yeah, it's like a bad, you know, I'm not just not benching, you know, I'm not just, I can't squat with a straight bar, you know, so I use a different bar, and I don't just not bench, I can use dumbbells because those feel better, you know, you work around it, you know.
Yeah. That's one of the things that we've talked, you and I have talked about, I know, as far as like dub training and stuff like that. That's the type of program that we came from when we got into Conjugate. Yeah. So I know we've had conversations, not long ones, but about, you mentioned, you go back into that movement pattern. For example, I had a lot of knee problems spanning back probably 2 years when we were training Doc.
Imagine that.
Yeah, imagine that. That was one of the things that sparked us to go to Conjugate too. We actually attended a seminar at the time. We had a meet coming up. We were training Doc at the time. After the meet, I went into Conjugate training, lost some weight because I was pretty fucking fat.
Yeah.
To tell the truth, but lost some weight, went into Conjugate training, started actually targeting hamstrings and glutes and quads and things like that. And I'm healthy today.
Yeah, there you go.
It's. I think Gray and I realize like you're being so specific in dump training, right? That your total is going to go up. But it's not for me and for Gray. I can't speak on everyone, and I don't want to bash programs.
Right.
No,
but,
absolutely not.
But dump, we found that we acquired so many weaknesses, and it wasn't a sustainable goal, right? So my deadlift, my total would go up quick, but after the meet, I would drop off, and I just realized how many weaknesses I could do. I couldn't do a lunge.
Yeah.
I couldn't do. I seriously, I was so
I couldn't get down
bilateral.
on 1 knee.
Yeah, exactly. and people bash Conjugate a lot. And I don't want, like I said, I don't want to get into that. But since I've been training Conjugate and studying Conjugate from guys like yourself, I mean, I've loved the program, and I think I program for athletes to be in the gym.
Yeah.
And I think it's applicable to everything.
Sure.
I mean, you obviously have to adjust, not one cookie cutter program. But
Right.
I love Conjugate because it's attacking weaknesses and it's, GPP, everything. I think it's the best bang for your buck in anything that I've learned from.
That's one of the things I will say is having my program done through you when I have. There will be times when I text you and say, hey, I'm training today, I'm training at a different gym, I don't have this bar.
Yeah.
What can I do? And you'll give me an idea what I can do, and then it's still max effort work.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it's just, you can train Conjugate by just using, just the principles.
Yeah.
You just need those principles, and you can do so much with it. As a lifter goes into a meet, I get pretty specific with the movements, just because a lot of lifters need that. You don't need specificity all the time. You don't need a, straight bar squat all the time. But as a meet gets closer, being more familiar with that, the exact same movement pattern, I think is going to benefit, pretty much everyone. Even myself, like a geared lifter, I'm taking when I get closer to a meet, I'm taking heavy doubles and full gear in the straight bar. That's just what's worked,
I've had people tell me they can't run Conjugate because of their gym or whatever, and I'm like, if you have a straight bar, you can do a pause squat, you can do a box squat. Exactly. There's so many, a front squat. There's so many variations that you've got 5 right there.
Yeah, it's almost like a challenge.
Block pull, deficit pull. I don't really think there's a gym in the world where you can't run a variation.
It forces you to be creative.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you learn a lot.
There's gyms that are more advantageous.
Sure.
I mean, that's kind of what I was going into next. You travel here on Saturdays, right?
Yeah.
At Union Fitness in Pittsburgh, and Casey Williams Gym. I mean, it's an incredible gym. If you guys ever have a chance, come check it out.
Yeah, definitely
but
check it out.
Training partners. So you drive here from where? State College.
State College, yep.
So that's what, 4 hours?
Yeah.
And you drive here for the equipment and the training partners, right?
Right.
So how important do you think are training partners in this sport?
Right.
Yeah. Or anything, really.
Yeah. I mean, super important. So I talked about cell block earlier. We're at Union now. I was in Knoxville, Tennessee. Cell block was in Manchester, Tennessee, which is close to Nashville, right? It's also a 3-hour drive. It's a 6-hour round trip. Well, I drove that round trip every other week, or every week, every year every week or every other week for 9 years straight. So I've been doing this stuff for a long time. That's what I think it's that important. If you have I just I don't want to point fingers at all whatsoever, but I just talked to a guy outside doing the meet, and he was talking about how he doesn't have the training partners, the equipment. I was like, well, come train here.
Yeah,
he's like, I'm 45 minutes away. I'm like,
So
that's easy.
I'm 3 hours away.
Josh and I have driven through multiple states at once.
Yeah, right.
For a reverse
one drive for a reverse hike,
exactly,
the
yeah.
opportunity to
That's
use
like-
one piece of equipment.
I've talked to so many people like that, and they're like, well, that gym's 20 minutes away. I'm like,
20 minutes. I'd kill for my
yeah.
20
I mean, I'm lucky my cousin opened up a gym. It's 5 minutes from the house.
Perfect, yeah.
But I mean, we were making the round trip for. I was driving 50 minutes one way. And
Yeah.
you don't think twice about that when you have goals and stuff. And I know I can speak from history. We started a powerlifting club in school. We went to the same college. That's how we met. And we had a pretty good powerlifting team. And just from having that atmosphere at school and having training partners, having people to come in at 2, 3, anytime you want to train, to rack your knees, to back squat, to spot you on bench. That was just so huge, and I think people take having a really good training partner.
I agree.
Until you lose one.
You know, it's not like, I don't want to say you can't get stronger on your own, you know, because that's what a lot of the people that I program for are basically lifting on their own, and that's why they need me, you know?
Yeah.
Kind of like the birth of coaching, or this online coaching thing that you see, just basically comes from, I mean, it basically comes from the absence of, you know, a lot of people don't have access to training partners. A lot of people don't.
You're right.
So you have this kind of need for it, right? And that's kind of where it comes from. But yeah, I mean, people really don't, they underestimate, like here at Union, like it's, part of the reason I come is just the bullshit, you know, to hang out, because
I train with Josh every Saturday.
Yeah,
I train generally on my own.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons I got in contact with you. But
Right.
I go every Saturday. I drive about an hour to Josh's gym, Josh and his cousin's gym.
Yeah.
That's just for that, just to be there and bullshit.
It's nice to be with like-minded people. Like,
Yeah.
you understand, like, when you come to a
Absolutely.
powerlifting meet, you kind of understand, like, all right, I fit in.
Yeah.
You know, like, we all are a little bit, like, you know.
Fucked up.
Yeah, I guess. Like, you know, everyone's got their own story for powerlifting, but I think we all kind of share a lot of similarities.
Sure.
You know, you got to be a little messed up to want to continuously get under the weight.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those guys, because I think it was you. I was talking to Gray about the way. I'm not one of the guys that compares powerlifting to being an apex predator or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I do hate that shit. And we make fun of people that like. We always troll people that post like lion memes and shit like that, or going to war, because you're not. You know, but it does take a certain fucked up dude to get under 800 pounds. Right?
It does.
But you're not an apex predator.
It's true.
That's, you know,
But
it's
if
just a fact.
you do post a picture, it has to be really pixelated.
Yeah, has to be.
Yeah.
Has to be.
It can't be. It has to be as fucked up as it
You
possibly
can't
can.
crop your videos.
Yeah.
You got to see the Hawker before for a minute. But yeah, I think that is like one thing I really want like to stress to people, and just see if you agree. But training partners, you obviously agree with, because you come
Absolutely,
to,
yeah.
and then longevity. I think the best guys in the sport are some of the best guys in the sport because they've been able to stay somewhat healthy for such a long period of time. I know when I got into it, you know, I deadlift 405. Then the next week, 2 weeks later, I deadlift 415, then 430, then 455, and eventually, and then that's when I hurt my back. You know, you got to be able to see from a far, far way away. And it's hard to get that into people's heads. But that's what I would tell a new lifter as well.
Sure.
Conjugate training is the way to go.
Like,
with that.
Who was it that said, show up and squat heavy for 10 years, you know, straight, and then we'll, you know.
Matt Vincent.
Yeah. And I think that's a great piece of advice, you know, just train smart. If you need a coach, get a good coach like this guy, get a good training partner, and listen to the right people, like you said, know who to listen
Yeah,
to.
well, it comes to a certain point too where it's not what takes you out of the sport isn't like an absence of getting stronger. It's trying to avoid getting hurt. Like what took Dave Tate out of the sport? Yeah, I mean, it's just what happened, you know, like, and part of it, like, too, it's just like, you know, you get like, I don't know Eric Lillibridge personally, but, you know, I mean, just like being at that kind of strength level,
When's it gonna stop?
it's trying to, it's just being able, it's not like, he's probably pretty strong all the time, you know, he probably doesn't train for a meet to kind of peak that strength, but just being able to stay healthy, you know, to be able to put up that total, it's just, that's the hardest part. It's not just like, oh, my strength fell off a little bit. You know, it's being like, my bicep ripped off, you know, it's that.
Seriously.
One of the things I want to touch on that you just brought to my mind, talk about Dave, and Dave was training at such a high level. Dave's a motherfucker.
Yeah.
So he's going to go 100 miles an hour every day. And one of the things that you preach is being a cerebral lifter, and that's something that...
It's still on.
Okay. That's something that I find is really interesting, because, you know, you get those guys, like we talked about, when I got into the sport, I followed EliteFTS. When you got into the sport, you followed EliteFTS. And you see these guys going 100 miles an hour every day, bashing their fucking heads against the wall to get stronger. But you do have to be cerebral in a sense to avoid getting hurt and getting taken out of the sport.
Yeah. So when you guys get, I've talked with Dave a little bit, not a whole bunch. I've written an article for him, and I'm working on another one. But yeah, like definitely get his viewpoint on how he feels about like a cerebral lifter. You know what I mean? Because I think it'd be interesting to hear what he has to say, like kind of looking back on it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean where the whole like cerebral lifter thing comes from is I trained with the guy that kind of brought me into powerlifting, Brent Tracy, was I think he's about the same age as Dave, maybe a little older, and he was at Westside kind of at the same time Dave Tate was, and I just like he's still training a little bit. He had his best total at about I think it was 49 or 50. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
right?
that's impressive.
He like a world record deadlift when he's like 16, 181, and then he hit his best total at 50.
This is a long-term
It's
sport.
Yeah. So that's Brent is the same kind of mindset. I mean, he's just an absolute like, not to go to the animal reference, but just like a pit bull back in the corner. I mean, it's just completely intense. But not cheesy. He means it.
There's a difference.
Yeah, I mean, when I met Brent, he was like 18 surgeries in. You know what I mean? So it was just something to where I preach being a cerebral lifter and just pay attention. And it's just part of it, like pay attention. I saw what happened to him, so I tried to be smart. And it's kind of
The cool thing about powerlifting is so many people have done it for such a long time before us that you can learn from it.
There's knowledge everywhere.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I know Gray and I, like the reason we started this interview series, podcast, whatever you want to call it, is because when we started in the sport and got really interested, we've been doing it for about 5 years now.
Right.
And the thing that stood out to me and that was so cool about this sport is everyone that is higher than you in knowledge or strength is willing to help you. That's the unique thing. I mean, there's always going to be jackasses.
Yeah.
There's always going to be dicks. That's anywhere you go, right? But, I mean, anyone. Ed Cohn, Jim Wendler, Matt Wenning, Casey, and anyone that I've ever reached out to, they've always been helpful.
Yeah.
I remember my first year training. I was a sophomore in college, and that was when Casey was at Robert Morris.
Yeah.
And I texted Casey or Facebook messaged him, so like, hey man, like, I know you're in my area, I look up to you, and he's like, yeah, come down and do speed bench with us this Sunday. I was like, you don't even know who I am. You just want me to come down and speed bench with you?
Yeah.
Like, it's sick. Like, there's so much, like, Ed Cohn, like, I meet him and I'm like, can I get a picture? He's like, why wouldn't you be able to get a picture with me?
Ed's
I'm
funny.
not, I'm just Ed Cohn.
just people, man.
Yeah, it's, because I think the cool thing is everyone's went through the same process to get where they're at. So you have been where Gray and I have been before, Ed was where you were. Everyone has been, it's a process, There are guys that are freakishly strong that start a little higher, but that's just how it works. But I don't know if you have anything else.
We don't want to take up too much of your time. We're going to get out there and squat.
Let's do one more question, or
sure.
You guys call.
No, I mean, I'm good. If you have anything, the biggest thing I want to say, obviously thank you for taking the time. He's here spawning and loading and coaching and still taking the time to come
Take it away from me
for our first episode. So we're
Perfect.
But seriously, go check out his article on EliteFTS. He laid out a full conjugate template, and I mean, it's detailed. It's basically, it's bigger than most of the shitty ebooks that people sell you online. And it's on EliteFTS for free. And I'm serious, it has so much information packed into a thing. And also, where else can they find you? I mean, he's got gear. You guys can see these shirts. He's got snapbacks.
Yeah.
I think Gray ordered one. Hats fit my head kind of weird, so I didn't order it. But I wanted to. I told him that.
Yeah. So just basically Instagram. I mean, that's basically all I'm doing right now. I've just started doing this kind of stuff like full time.
Yeah.
So it's been kind of like my little baby while I work full time. The past little bit, but looking to expand. I bought calloushandspower.com. Started building a website there. I got the Instagram page, which is just doing really well. I don't have I'll have a web store on that website that I'm kind of working on.
Oh, yeah.
Working on another shirt. Just plugging away at it.
Cool. What is your Instagram handle for people to follow?
It's at calloused hands power.
Yeah. And we'll put it below.
Perfect,
We'll
yeah.
just follow you. And yeah, man, that's it. Thank you so much for coming on. man.
Thanks for coming
Seriously.
on.